Recognize that tune, and you know it's time for Relics Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting and relic hunting. You can call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. You're listening to Relics Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. All right, we're live again down here in God's country, down in the southern part of the United States of America, coming to you on Tuesday night, April the 12th. So if you're listening live, you know that date, but if you're on the archive version, you're going back a day or two perhaps. And you know we have a disclaimer that we always put out on our show that we are a family-friendly show. We've got a lot of young people that join us from night to night, and so we put that disclaimer out, but I'm going to have to put out another disclaimer tonight because you are about to be exposed to so much southern redneck that you may have to go take a bath after this show, because I am your host, Digging with Seven, and I'm in Kentucky.
And I'm your co-host, Tennessee Jeff, and I'm in Tennessee.
Now, I'm Butch Holcome. I'm way down here in Ackworth, Georgia. They made me put on shoes just to do this show.
Oh, man, I tell you what. It's something else. I tell you, I didn't mute my phone. Yep. I guess y'all heard that ring. I'm sorry about that. Some producer I am that I do something like that. But so glad.
I heard an echo there for a little bit. But guess who the first person was on the comment section?
Go ahead.
Jeff Ford. There you go. We got Jeff Ford. We got Nick. We got Bill. Hey, there's Barb. And then we got Larry Stevens. There's Woody. Hello, Woody. And then we got Bill, Nick. Do y'all hear an echo?
I hear a little bit of an echo. Yeah, sure do.
Okay.
We'll just have to kind of deal with it here on this end. It's not anything with us. Spreaker's been having a little bit of problem, and I guess it could be Skype. I know what it is. Butch Holcome's on the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Your problem is the guest.
That's exactly right. I have been on.
Hey, there's Mike.
I've been on with Butch on about 3 different shows, and every one of them but his has crashed, or there's been something wrong. What do you say the deal is on that, Butch?
I know nothing. Nothing. Conspiracy theorist, cast your votes now, but I do know that Relic Roundup, I've never broken it, but I broke Relic Radio, and I broke several of them, so.
Yeah.
And yet you guys invited me on to be a guest, so that's very trusting. I appreciate that.
I'll tell everybody.
Well, Butch, it's like this. If you don't break something, then you're not doing anything. So, I mean, that's the way they said it worked. I mean, if something tore up, well, I mean, you're not doing nothing if everything goes right. So
that's exactly right.
I tell you how this came about, how we got Butch on tonight. If you listen to American Digger Relic Roundup, then you know that the other night him and Heath ambushed their first caller and made that caller be their guest. And I kind of thought that something was up because they didn't announce who their guest was. Well, then the other night, whenever they started to start a show, I was up here editing some video, and my Skype computer is sitting here, and all of a sudden my Skype computer lights up that I'm getting a call in, so I switch a mic on and throw the headphones on, and it's Butch and Heath, and they're getting ready to do their show, and they had included me in the Skype, and so I told Butch, I said, you're my first caller, and so you're our guest on Thursday night. I said, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Boy, did I learn a lesson.
You messed up. Always look at that group before you hit the call button, because if you include me, I'm going to obligate you some way.
Yeah, but you should have vetted your guest a little more. I mean, you guys knew all about me, and you still invite me on here.
Yeah,
well, he's got a point there.
Hey, what can I say?
Well,
yeah, of course, we knew you. We knew you would be a talker. That's why we had you on here, where we could sit back and just listen to you talk the whole show.
To all the audience, I'm going to give you a secret. If you ever decide to be a podcast host or radio host, whatever it may be, always get a guest that talks a lot. Because while that guest is talking, man, you can go out and get a Taco Bell and come back. It's great. They run the whole show, so I'm not going to let you guys off that easy, though.
Well,
I'm going to revert to yes/no questions. Yes, no,
no, you're not.
Please don't.
No, you're not. They ain't no way that they could. There ain't no way they could tie your mouth or tape you or duct tape you or anything that you couldn't get free and talk. And we didn't get to talk to you enough when we were at DIV. Most of you that tuned into that show or watched Plugmaster Ford's live Facebook of that, we had Butch on, and we didn't get to talk to him as much as we wanted to. And so we wanted to remedy that tonight, didn't we, Jeff?
We sure did.
Well,
and then by the end of the hunt every day, I mean, of course, we done good to talk to each other, let alone somebody else. I mean, it would wear you out walking to the New York camp every day.
I mean, I'm not sure I did. I'm not sure after the radio show and the next day's hunt, I'm not sure I did talk again until maybe Sunday or Monday.
Butch said we walked to the New York. He said we walked to the New York camp and lived to tell about it. Now that's
man,
that's some notoriety right there. And Barb did too.
I've never seen a place like. Did you walked to the New York camp several times, right, Jeff? I know.
I did. Yeah.
I've never seen.
I walked there twice.
Well, it's amazing. It was a mile to get there all uphill, and getting back was 2 miles uphill. And I do not understand the physics of that, but my body tells the truth on that.
It was
I had no idea how that was, but that's the way it was. I mean, it was terrible. And of course it helped in the morning. Everybody was ready to go. And then of course, I'm going to find this, I'm going to find that. They all excited. And then of course, about halfway up the hill, you're like, man, I'm not excited anymore. So that breakfast wore off pretty quick.
It did. It's amazing. All the old timers, you guys know this, and the new people will figure it out real quick. It's not nearly as tiring walking a long distance back if you find relics. If you're finding relics there, I don't care if you got 10 pounds of relics you're toting in your pouch. You're going to be excited and energized the whole way back. So that's the way it goes.
That's exactly right. And you can be dead tired. Me and Jeff have hunted before, and you're just dragging your feet, and then all of a sudden find something good, and you're not. You don't want to leave. You want to hunt some more. It's all psychological.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's something other. I don't know if it's the star phase, moon phase, or whatever. But once you start finding relics, buddy, and see, during the summer, you can hurt yourself real bad if you don't watch it. I've been out in the middle of the field digging bullets, and not realize how hot I do get in the middle of the summer. And folks, you have to be careful when you're out there in the field doing that. But now we don't go out very much and find stuff like that. But I mean, every now and then you'll run into a pocket like that. So
I was going to say I would really like to go hunting where you're at.
Jeff brings up a good point. He brings up a good point because
dehydration will kill you guys,
and dehydration will sneak up on you too.
Yes.
You need to set aside, especially in the summertime, whenever it's hot, or on a windy day. Anything that takes moisture away will take moisture away from your body as well. Doesn't have to just be heat, But if you need to set aside a time to hydrate, get you a little bit of water, and I'll tell you something else. Alcohol will not hydrate you; it dehydrates you. So, just straight water is about the best you can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, that's pretty much all I drink when we relic. Now, Seven, he'll drink his Pepsis. I mean, like I drink water, but
not me.
I'll take 3 or 4 liters of water with me every time.
Well, I was going to say what I used to do is I used to actually wear one of these Camelback water packs, one of the big ones, and it got to where that was hurting my back a little bit, and especially if I'm hunting with a MindLab GPX or something and already have something strapped to me. What I do now is people laugh at me, but I actually wear overalls that have a lot of pockets, and I will take as many water bottles as I can and put them in my pockets. I won't leave the truck with less than 4, and usually I'll have 6 on me. And if it's during the summer, I will actually take and freeze some of those. And you don't want to freeze them all because you won't have one you can go ahead and drink out of, but the other ones will melt. And not only will they get you cool, they'll get you downright cold. So be sure you want to do that. But that's how I stay cool in the summer is as the water melts, then I drink it. Yep. And I got ice cold water all day. I stay cool, and I got plenty of liquids.
Air-conditioned pockets.
That's right. I've seen Seven. He'll take and wet his handkerchief and then put it over his neck. And then, of course, that helps a lot. He's got me doing that. So,
well, there's actually a couple of products they've got. In fact, I think Debbie from MindLab one time gave me like a do-rag that actually, I don't know if it wicks moisture or what. Anyway, you wet it and it stays cool all day, and you put it on your head. And I used to have a headband I would wear that was like that. And things like that help you stay cool. But, whether you're cool or hot, the main thing is dehydration. And like I always said, even on a windy day, you can get dehydrated. You can do it really quick, and it will make you very sick. Without going into a lot of detail, a couple of months ago, I had an overnight stay in the hospital, and long story short, it was because of another condition that gave me extreme dehydration. And they were very concerned about it. I didn't realize how bad it could be.
Oh, I tell you, dehydration can sneak up on you. You get disoriented, you get lightheaded, and you can be in a world of hurt, especially, the kind of stuff that I can imagine getting into a condition like that by myself on the back end of the New York camp, because you've got a 30-minute walk to get back, and you're just in a world of hurt whenever that happens.
Absolutely.
Hey, Butch, one thing that I wanted us to cover tonight, I want you to talk about the American Digger magazine some in a moment, but you've been in this business for a long time. Talk a little bit about your perspective of the evolution of relic hunting or metal detecting, how you see it.
Okay, well, I mainly hunt Civil War relics, and I waited until the battles actually stopped before I got out there. In all seriousness, I have been doing this a while. At last count, I believe I've been doing it about 50 years. I may even be approaching 51 years now. And I mean, guys, I was hardcore, and still am when I can, but I used to travel with metal detectors always in the trunk of my vehicle. And generally after work, if I had a place to go, I would stop and I would hunt. And then every weekend I would go metal detecting. And the funny thing is, and I'm doing the math in my head, so this may be wrong. I'm thinking this was about 1968, thereabouts when I started. But when I first started this, our detectors were not nearly as good as they are now. I actually started with a Heath kit, which my father and I put together. And it was, for the time, it was a decent metal detector, they said. But I would go to sites with my buddy and would say, this is hunted out. There's nothing left. And we would go, one of the problems we were having is back then, people like myself that were getting into it in the late 60s, because you got to remember people had been in it all the way from the 50s on. So in the late 60s, we went to where we could see the entrenchments. We didn't think about going to the camps back behind it. So we were hunting hunted out spots. We still did okay. But after about 3 years of not finding much, I was ready to ride off metal detecting. And then one of my buddies got a different metal detector, and suddenly he was finding bullets again in these sites we'd been to. And he had a whites. I believe it was I think it was the Coin Master. I'm not sure on that, but it was one of the early whites. And so I got one, and then suddenly we were finding relics again. And we were also figuring out camps a little bit by then. And so fast forward throughout the 70s, okay, it got to the point the places were getting hunted out again. Then Fisher, I believe it was, came up with I think it was the 1266X. Anyway, it was one of the newer machines Fisher came up with, and we started finding stuff. And I started catching on to a cycle that what happens is each generation of metal detectors find whatever they can because of ground conditions, because of depth, etc. And then they can't go much beyond that, and places are written off as hunted out. And then new metal detectors come along that'll work better in the ground or go another inch or two deeper. And you go back to these hunted out spots, it's like starting over. So really, the sites I'm hunting now and doing good at are sites that were considered hunted out in the late 60s and early 70s.
Hunted out in probably in every decade. Everybody thought they were hunted out in the 60s, decade. And then they do it in the 70s, and they think, but it's machines, isn't it?
It's machines. It sure is. And I mean, if we had the machines that are out there now, then there wouldn't be anything left for people to find. But as it is now, even a newcomer to the hobby, if they get a decent metal detector and get someone to show them how to use it and to actually point them in the right direction as to where to go and the laws, etc., they'll do good with it. I never thought that would be happening 50 years after I started doing this. I just could not conceive of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know my best farm right here at the house, it was the 105th Ohio Volunteer Infantry, and I walked that farm over with my first metal detector, and, of course, I only found 2 bullets.
Yeah.
Okay, then I stepped up to a different machine, and then, of course, I started finding bullets, and then to this day, I've got like 7 or 8 plates out of this farm. Yeah. And, I mean, there's still stuff there, but, I mean, of course, it's just in pockets. So, I mean, the new technology helps.
Yeah, it always becomes a challenge, but, things can change almost overnight, and I'm hesitant to mention the brands here, so I probably won't, but I actually hunted a place in Savannah, Georgia, a trench line, which actually still had some relics. We discovered it a few years ago, and dug it up. I guess that was 3 years ago, and we went back to that site quite a few times and thought we had completely hunted it out, and it was very junky. And I went back in, I believe it was a couple months ago, with a new machine that I had. It's one of the wireless machines, and honest to goodness, it was like starting over. It was like I was back in an unhunted site because it was distinguishing between the junk and the deep targets, which the other machines never were able to do. So, don't count it out. I'm not saying go out and buy the latest machine every time it comes out, but always keep your eyes open for new technology. And if you find your finds, if you discover that your finds are starting to peter out, then look into getting a new detector because it does make a difference.
It sure does.
It sure does.
I've got a camp here that I hunted probably 4 years with AT Pro CTX, and I thought I'd hunted it out. I mean, I was going and hunting for 3 and 4 hours and not pulling anything, not a good relic one out. I got my GPX, and I think the first day that I went in there, I got like 15 Colt 44s. There's a whole nother layer for this GPX, and there's going to be other detectors that are going to be able to sort through those places where you've got a lot of iron debris and everything that you can't use GPX, and there's a whole nother camp in there.
There absolutely is. And now, while we're on the subject of iron and junk, because I said, like I was saying, where the place I hunted had a lot of junk in it, I want to tell particularly the new people to the hobby out there, because I know there's new people coming into it every day, and also for some of the older people that may not know it. But if you're ever out and you start digging square nails or something beyond just typical farm junk that's very old, slow down, see what's in there, because square nails date to the Civil War era and before. So if you're looking for Civil War relics, which I think a lot of us are, square nails are your key to slow down. And I'm going to tell everybody a horror story. Back in the 70s, I was looking for a Confederate cavalry camp. And I was walking through the woods going solo, and I hit a little hilltop and started digging pieces of tin and square nails and little whatsits, nothing non-ferrous. Everything was iron. So I kept going and never did find the camp. About 4 years later, a fella showed up at our club with a Confederate belt buckle, and I started talking to him, and it turned out that I had walked right through the camp. He had found the camp, and it was on the hill with all the junk on it. So I learned my lesson the hard way.
And we all do. I mean, me and Jeff are that way. We've walked through sites. We walked through one here a week or so ago, didn't we, Jeff? Didn't think anything was there.
We sure did, and it didn't find a debris field at all. And then, I mean, you had just a very little debris field, but Seven went back, and I mean, he done good with the flat buttons. So,
well, okay,
it's something about the soil too.
It is. And the ground conditions, if it's been raining, you're going to hear the signals better than if it's dry.
Well, the day that we went, of course, we've had a lot of rain. We've had 18 inches of rain this year here in southern Kentucky and middle Tennessee. So the ground was wet. The ground really didn't change. But what Jeff is talking about, this is a particular site that the signals just don't sound good. All the conditions are right. They just don't sound good for some reason, and I don't know why. I went back and found like 30 flat buttons, and I only had two that rang up good. The rest of them were all iron with just a little chirp that was coming out, and I started digging those little chirps, and a lot of them turned out to be flat buttons. Now, I'll tell newcomers as well, if you're not digging some nails and trash, then you're not you're not covering the site like you ought to. You got to dig some of those iffy signals.
And you bring up something too. Don't rely too much on discrimination. The best are how a target sounds, and dig it and see what it is. In other words, but the best discrimination, I had an old timer tell me this one time when the new discriminating machines were coming out. The best discrimination you can get is your shovel. Dig it and see what it is. Then decide if you're going to dig the other targets that sound like that.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do.
And Jeff will tell you how we run discrimination on our machines.
Yeah, we run them, I mean, Pro Zero, and of course we use our AT Pros at home sites and stuff, and then Pro Zero, I mean, we want to hear everything. You've got to find that iron field, and if you're not in that iron field, then most likely you're not going to find any good targets. You may run up on a good target outside of the debris field, but most of your good targets are going to be inside that debris field.
And, you bring up an interesting point there about running on zero. I think most of the successful relic hunters, the most successful ones at least, run in either a zero mode or no discrimination or all metal and go by tone or the readout on the machine. And it will drive you crazy sometimes, but by doing that, you're not going to miss nearly as much.
Me and Jeff we're tone diggers. We listen to the tone.
Very important.
Now, I do that because that's how I started. And I would almost offer some prize if any of our listeners could guess which one of us is older, me or Butch. But me and Butch, now he started before I did. I didn't start until the early 70s. But they were all tone machines. We didn't have a meter on them.
Yes, they were.
I mean,
no.
You learned to listen to them. But we learned by taking our shovel and digging things, we learned what those sounds began to sound like. And I think I'm a better digger by not having a meter.
It's and funny. That's right.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, when I hunted for a couple of years, and then of course I was looking at the VDI all the time, and then I learned just listen to them tones, and I mean that's the big part of it. And then you'll learn, like Butch said, use your shovel for your discrimination. So.
And of course you've got to, that's the way to teach yourself what the tones are. Now, I will admit that as I get older, especially, I have more trouble with the tones. In fact, anybody that's ever heard any of my music know that I have a lot of trouble with tones. But I've started using, I will use the tone, but I also watch my meter, and there are sometimes I will dig by the meter. It just depends on how my ears are doing that day.
Well, I stood in front of those old big custom amps and them Marshalls for a number of years, and I shouldn't have any hearing at all, especially in my left ear, because I was on the right side of the stage and my amp just pointed into my left ear. But I've been blessed. I really, really have good hearing, and I can pick out those tones.
Seven, ask Raina. You just want to hear what you want to hear.
Well, that's true.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But that's not a hearing problem. That's a man problem, ain't it, Butch?
You think I'm going to answer that? My wife might be listening. We aren't going to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm in my man zone now. Don't question me about my man zone. I'm good right now.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, tell us about American Digger Magazine, the concept of getting that started and everything.
Wow. Okay, the idea started for it. Okay, I've always been somewhat of a writer. It started out, I used to write poetry when I was a kid, poetry, and then I learned to play music. I started writing songs, and I've always been a writer at heart. And then after a while, I started reading the Treasure magazines, and I'm like, I'm going to try to write an article for them. So I wrote an article. It got accepted. I started writing articles. Most of them got accepted. I got published quite a bit. And one day it just occurred to me, okay, I'm doing all this work. I love this hobby. I want to make a living out of this hobby. I wonder if there's room for another magazine. And I actually asked someone who should have been my competitor, but I believe in being friends with your competition when you can. And he told me at the time, he said, I think there might be room for another one, but I wouldn't count on it. But here's what you can do to get started. And he kind of mentored me. It was somebody I'd written for. And Anita and I, who's my wife and co-owner of the magazine, we started talking about it, and we were coming back from Virginia. And we actually stopped at one of the magazines I had written for, and I was very surprised to find out instead of a big office building, these people were running this out of their living room with computers. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can do that. We have computers. And nobody told me any different. So Anita and I decided, well, let's start our own magazine. So we, this is really crazy, but it's the truth. We got a book called How to Start a Magazine. And that is the God's honest truth. We read the book. We started the magazine. And before we started, though, we planned for it for a year. And we actually asked the relic hunting community, hey, you guys know us. You know me. I've been around. Would you like to subscribe to a magazine? And surprisingly, before we even went to press, we had 500 subscribers that had paid. And that told me this is going to be a big deal. And and that's why reputation is so important. I really had a good reputation regardless of what you saw on the Cops episode that time. But
and what Anita said, too.
And what Anita said. So anyway, this was 14 years ago when about 14 and a half years ago now, when we put out that first edition of the magazine. It was 40-something pages. I don't even think it had color in it. But we have never missed an issue since then. This is 14 and a half years later. And the first edition now goes on eBay for anywhere from $30 to $50. So we must have done something right. And if you have not read American Digger magazine, I'm going to plug my own product here a little bit.
I want you to, yeah.
I'm going to, because it is my passion, my heart, and my soul that we put in that magazine. I do this not to get rich, believe you me. It's tough sometimes, but I do it because I love the hobby so much that I want to have my hand in it as much as possible. And our magazine covers everything from all the way back to fossils, which are not metallic, obviously, all the way up to current jewelry finds. Now, we prefer the historical stuff. We love the stuff from 1900 on back, but we publish stuff after that, too, that's of interest. And we try to please everybody that's in the hobby of not only metal detecting, but going out and finding old artifacts. And it turns out we got a pretty winning combination, because now we are worldwide. And the way we got worldwide, by the way, is in addition to the print magazine, which comes out every 2 months, we also started offering a digital magazine. And by doing the digital, the people overseas where the postage was too astronomical to send, suddenly they started subscribing. So we're now international. We're known the world over, at least anybody that can read the English language, because we don't publish any other languages. And I want to invite the listeners right now, if you've never seen American Digger magazine, I want you to give us a call, get a pencil, write it down. Don't call now, but call tomorrow between 10 and 6, which is our business hours, 770-362-8671. I'm going to do it again, 770-362-8671, or you can email Anita, A-N-I-T-A, at americandigger.com. We'll send you a free sample issue of the magazine, and you can see what you've been missing, because I really think anybody that's in this hobby will enjoy it. And not only that, we listen to our readers. If you've got a suggestion, let us know. If you've got an article, send it to us. We actually even have a competition going right now on writing for freelance writers for the magazine. We're fixing to announce the winners of last year's. It goes July to July. It's called the Freedom Awards, because we started on the 4th of July. And winner gets, I believe it's $200, and we have first, second, third prize, all cash prizes, and with a lot of other goodies to go with it. So not only can you read our magazine, but we're going to encourage you to write for us too. And be sure and call us again, 770-362-8671. Operators are not standing by, but Anita answers the phone and sends you a free American Digger magazine.
Me and Jeff both put that number in the chat. Thank you. I want you to call. I want you to be exposed to this magazine. I subscribe to the magazine and thoroughly endorse it. We're going to open up the phone lines, but first we need to pay some of our bills, and so we'll be back in just a second. If your passion is metal detecting, then you know how much your success is based on the equipment you use. Let my buddy Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, help you with that. Tim is an authorized dealer of Garrett, XP Deus, Tesoro, and macro detectors and supplies. He also carries a variety of aftermarket coils. Murray Branch Outdoors is not only competitive in their prices, but the service after the sale is second to none. You know, we've all experienced those situations where we purchase a new detector and then we get out in the field and we have questions about settings or operation of that particular detector. Well, I tell you what, with your purchase from Murray Branch Outdoors, you're also going to get Tim's personal cell phone number. That's right, his own cell phone number, and you're just a quick phone call away from getting answers to those questions. Now try that with some chain store purchase of a detector. Murray Branch Outdoors also deals in used detectors, and he'll give you top dollar for your trade-in whenever you decide to upgrade. So give Tim of Murray Branch Outdoors a call at 615-948-4611 and tell him Relics Radio said hey. Hey, Butch, actually got a couple of guys that I've got.
Before, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to say before you bring on any guest, before you bring the callers on, and callers, thank you for your patience. Let's do a giveaway with one of them. I'll let you and Jeff decide how to do it, but I want to give away a year's subscription to American Digger magazine.
Wow!
Help get the word out. How about that?
Man,
that is great.
That's pretty awesome.
Okay. No, Jeff, you are not eligible, Jeff. It has to be a caller.
Oh man,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've already paid my money. I tell you what, let's do. We threw this out there a while ago. The closest person to guess the year that I was born and the year that Butch was born is going to win that subscription. How about that?
That sounds good, and I'm going to give them a hint. Both of them start with 19.
Oh, you gave it away. You gave it away, Butch.
I think so.
Jeff thinks that I'm back in the 1800s. Jeff, you'll have to watch the chat. I know mine's going.
Just wait till that boy graduates high school. We'll show him a thing or two.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got Nick. He said 1951.
Yeah, but you have
Purdue put 18.
Yeah, you got to put two numbers in, Nick. You got to put two numbers in.
Hey, Nick.
Which Chris Heimsoff did. He said 1959 and 1957. Put a name in there too. Let's have some fun with this. Put 7, and then put Butch and put the numbers and let's. I give away or I do a lot of speaking at the schools here. And that's one reason why we are a family-friendly show, right. Because I give those students a card of our show, and we get a lot of those kids that listen to our show and watch our videos, and so I don't want to bring them over here and do anything untoward toward those guys. But I've had those kids ask me, actually, were you in the Civil War? And that's kind of demoralizing.
It's rough, but let me tell you, what goes around comes around. My mom, to this day, still tells the story of some of the, I don't know, we had some company over, and my dad was in World War II and had his uniform, and I walked up to him in front of the guests and say, Dad, show everybody your Civil War uniform.
We've got let's see, Nick, 1951 7, 1953 Butch. We got Tim Henderson, 1951 Lloyd.
Hey, Tim.
And 1949 Butch.
Hey, thanks
There's
a lot.
Woody. He's got 54 7, 44 Butch.
How are we going to say the winner if one of them's right and the other one's wrong?
Oh, boy. No, you've got to be, whoever's going to be the closest on it.
Okay.
There's
maybe we should announce them at the end and look through them. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away.
We're going to, and we'll look at it here at the end, and then we'll announce it, and then and get a name and everything.
And one entry per person, please.
Heath Jones said.
I guess Heath, 1861, Butch. Yeah.
Oh, that's only one day. Heath, what's my birthday?
Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. Those two guys have been all week or the last 2 weeks trying to put me in that wide pride group, and I'm not in that group. Yeah.
Wide Pride, me and Heath Jones. By the way, I'll plug my show on Monday nights too, which is American Digger's Relic Roundup. But me and Heath Jones, Wide Pride. You got to be at least 280 to get the club, and it's better if it's all between your chest and your hips. Because remember, we should all stay in shape, and round is a shape.
That's it.
Yeah. Hey guys,
I thought it was you had to at least wear a triple large T-shirt.
Yeah, you gotta have 3X.
Yeah, and we are classy to be in the club. You do have to wear a shirt of some kind. We do have dress code.
Okay.
Yeah,
kind of like Walmart. You got to at least have shoes.
Yeah. Well, no shoes required on this show. At all. Hey, guys, we do have the phone lines opened up. If you want to talk to a legend, Butch Holcome with American Digger Magazine, 270-495-0315. Don't be bashful. We're all just a bunch of rednecks with metal detectors, and we'd love to hear your questions. There are no dumb ones. Let's get back to the evolution of relic hunting. What have you seen as far as major changes?
Laws are one big thing. It did not used to be like it was now. I mean, there's always been trespassing laws, and you always should have gotten permission, and, that goes without saying. But nowadays, okay, here's an example. Actually, after 9/11, things changed a whole lot. One of the best camps that I knew of 10 years ago, to access it, you had to park at a power station and then walk about a quarter to a half mile up a road. There was no other way to get there. Once 9/11 happened, they closed the power station off to any kind of parking, and you can possibly be arrested for parking there now. Just something as simple as parking. Also, the laws, a lot of it changed with ARPA, which I'll let people look that up on their own. That was when some people dug into some Indian mounds and unfortunately used bulldozers and did a lot of bad things with it. And it started out with laws against digging in mounds. And of course, the politicians took that and twisted it around. And it's still used today to prohibit metal detecting in a lot of the places that we used to hunt. For instance, Pickett's Mill, Georgia, which was actually a little bit before my time, but it's a state park now. It's a battlefield park, no metal detecting allowed at all on it. It was actually discovered by relic hunters that used to hunt there. And in fact, early on, I think I could have gone to it too. There were just other places to go, but now it's strictly off limits and you can get in a whole lot of trouble. Parks, most parks, when I was growing up, I don't ever remember a park telling me I couldn't hunt there. I'm talking about local parks, city parks, things of that nature. And now you don't know. You have to contact the city, and it's a flip of a coin as to whether they'll say you can do it or not. Here's a great example, and kids gather around because you are not going to believe this tale. But nowadays, if you go on a national battlefield park, say like Gettysburg or any of the national parks, you can be subject to, I believe it's a $20,000 fine and confiscation of all your equipment, including your vehicle. In the early 1960s, you actually, here in Georgia at least, on the federal parks could actually get a permit to metal detect on them with a park ranger. Then when that was changed in the late 60s is when I started finding out about this. I had a friend who legitimately wandered onto the park. He did not realize he was on the national park, and he was caught for it. His fine was $50, and they gave him back all his metal detecting equipment at the trial. And it was a misdemeanor. Nowadays, it is a felony and $20,000 fine. So that's one of the things I've seen change that has not been for the better. Well, maybe it is for the better because you don't want everybody digging the stuff up on parks.
Yeah.
So there are reasons behind it.
So what about the fines? I mean, I know back in the day, I've got several older friends that, they've got plates after plates and, collections that, anybody would die for.
Well,
now, in your case, how much harder is it to find a good place to hunt now?
Well, okay, here in Georgia, it's particularly hard in Georgia, and there's two reasons for that. One, we get a lot of pressure from metal detectors down here. I have a ton of metal detectors. Two, you got to remember, if you're looking for Civil War relics at least, coming through North Georgia to Atlanta until you get to the coast when things change a little bit, they were traveling on the average of probably 10 to 20 miles a day, per day. They were marching through. They would stop occasionally, have a battle, have a skirmish, and then move on. There were no winter camps. There wasn't anything long-term. And what happens in a case like that is it's common sense. If you camp in a spot and you're only there one night or 2 nights even, you're only going to lose a little bit of stuff. If you're there several weeks, you're going to lose a lot of stuff. I do a lot of my hunting in Virginia now just because of that, because in Virginia, they actually were there for long term in the camps. And here in Georgia, you also had part of 1 year that they were coming through. That's 1864, the summer of 64. And they really did not lose as much. Now, there was a lot of stuff here at one time, but I think it got hunted out quicker because of that. Nowadays, I consider myself extremely blessed if I can dig a Confederate button or a plate in Georgia. I think the last I've dug either one of them, I guess I got a Confederate button last year here. Last summer I got a cast eye, and the last plate I dug was about 2 years ago. And over the years, my plate collection, I think I had found not a tremendous amount, but maybe 45 belt buckles and plates of some kind, and probably about the same number of artillery shells. And cast eyes, I had gotten about 50 of those, so that's about one a year. So it shows you how the finds are really starting to slow down.
But there are still places that haven't. There's still places that haven't been hunted. I mean, there's still, probably not a winter camp or anything because those were well documented. But there are camps like this camp that I've got, and there's not a lot of pressure here. There's not a lot of people that metal detect. I'm sure the more I do this show, the more people are going to start to do that in our area. I may be cutting our legs out from under us, Jeff. I don't know, but not a lot of pressure. And colonial houses they're not easy to find, but when you find one, they're virgin. Nobody's ever hunted.
They are.
Yeah.
They are, and a lot of that was not documented. I mean, where you're at, there may have documented on the maps and all, but here in Georgia, it's hard to find maps that even date before the Civil War because most of it was rural, and there was no reason to really map it out. You'll occasionally come across them, but most of the ways we find house sites down here, and by the way, house sites are golden for relics. It's the best place to find relics. But I actually, find the old road beds, and all old houses are going to be somewhere near a road bed. I mean, they didn't build a house in the middle of nowhere with no access. And if you find one like that, then if there were troops that were moving through the area, you can bet your bottom dollar there were going to be some boys stopping there. And even if the house was unoccupied, they were going to go up there and see what they could find. Yep. That's the place to find relics.
You're exactly right. And the best button that I have found, I found at an old house site. It's a droop wing early Kentucky militia button. It's a cuff button, but I found it at an old house. And me and Jeff have found every colonial site that I've found in my area. I have found looking for a Confederate camp that is supposed to be in a community that we're hunting that is along the river. Still haven't found the camp, but have found 5 or 6 colonial houses. We don't have any maps. We just stumble up on them. So there's nothing beats the legwork.
That's the way it is.
Well, if you think about it, if there were published maps of this stuff, they probably would be hunted. So it's a blessing.
That's right.
My bad. I have Woody, you're going to have to call us back, and I'm going to go back and put the other guys back on, okay?
The railroad, the L&N Railroad comes through our area. And, I mean, of course, your troops was going to be next to the railroad. So
absolutely. Railroads and road beds. And forget the interstates. I know Yankees use the interstates to go to Miami, but most of them didn't exist during the Civil War.
I cut, hey guys, I cut Woody Jones off. He was trying to call in.
Oh, Woody.
And I clicked on him. So, Woody, if you'll call back in, I'll add you to the group. I'm sorry about that. Didn't mean to do it. I'm still a redneck. Can't help it. Here he comes. I'm going to add him to the group right here, see if we can get him in. What's going on, Woody?
Hey, Woody. What's going on? Hey, Jeff. Hey, Butch, I thought I'd have a little fun with you there.
I know you were probably a drummer boy for Lee's Army of Northern Virginia back in the day, and I guess everybody caught that.
Wait, what was that now? I didn't understand. My hearing
we're
went
thinking
out.
about your age and everything. Yeah, we're thinking about your age. I said, I know that you were probably a little drummer boy for Lee's Army back in the day, but
well, I'll be honest, I was too old at the time, but I did serve.
Okay.
He made the drums. So.
Okay, there you go. That'll work. I was just wondering, did you find something as a young kid just walking around that got you into detecting or into like history?
Uh-huh.
And, if you can remember your first find like that, you were like, wow, this is really cool. And this, this is something I want to do. And I'll hang up and I'll listen and I'll let other people call. But thank you, sir. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Woody.
Great question. Great question.
The memories, great question. I started the first find I ever remember finding was an arrowhead on my uncle's property. I was probably about 7 years old. And I just could not get over the fact that there was a rock that was made by a person. I just couldn't quite understand it or grasp it, but it gave me a thirst for the past. And then fast forward a little bit, they were having the centennials, the Civil War centennials in 1964 here in Georgia. My mom took me to one of those, and I'm like, wow, look, they were fighting the Civil War here. Cool. And then joining the Boy Scouts, or it might be the Cub Scouts, we went on an outing to Kennesaw Mountain. This shows you how times have changed. And the scoutmaster sent all the boys out to see if they could find mini balls. Now, this was on a national park, but that's the way it was then. And some of my friends found some mini balls. I didn't find one, but I was enthralled by the fact that these were from the Civil War. Then, and I may be getting my dates here a little bit wrong, but I don't know, I was probably about 12 years old or so, maybe 10, 12, something like that. Went fishing with a friend. And he opens his tackle box, and there's all these Civil War bullets in there. They're Williams cleaners, which I recognized somehow. I knew those were bullets too. And I asked him, I said, where did you get those? He said, oh, you mean my fishing sinkers? I wound up buying all he had for a quarter, and still have them as a matter of fact. But it never occurred to me at the time to find them with a metal detector until a guy that my dad worked with, when he worked at Lockheed, and the guy went on to become a legend here in the South. That would be Dent Wildman Myers. And Dent worked at Lockheed at the time before he opened his own shop. And by the way, American Digger had an interview with him a couple of issues back. He's a early hunter. And he found out I was interested in this, and took me out, actually, I got that wrong. That was a different guy that found out I was interested in it. He took me and my dad out metal detecting, and I was hooked. However, I'm leaving the important part out. Dent Myers actually came to visit my grandmother's property one time because he had heard, or he thought that there might be Civil War relics there, and my grandmother was kind of sick of me running around getting in her hair, so she made a deal with him that if he would take me out with him metal detected on the farm, then he could do it. So I tagged along. I don't remember what we found, but I do remember at that point that I discovered that there were things that would dig history out of the ground, and I was hooked. And later on, probably 1971 or so, I bought my very first White's metal detector from him, my first good metal detector. So that's the way it all transpired, and I'm going to tell you, even to this day, I remember finding my first bullet too, because this brings back so many memories. When I found my first bullet with a metal detector, I was just totally enthralled. I still have that first bullet. It was a Confederate Mississippi bullet. And I also remember the first day I ever found a belt plate. I'd seen my buddies find several of them, and I was getting kind of jealous. So I went to a Confederate site and got a good signal, kicked side of the leaves, saw the back side of a box plate, saw the wire hook sticking up, and I'm like, wow, cool, I got a box plate. And I flipped it over. It was a Georgia state seal.
So, man.
It took me, however, 40 years to find a matching button to it. That was kind of the joke. In fact, there used to be a contest in American Digger magazine about when I would find a Georgia button. But I finally found one about a mile from my house. So that was special.
Oh, man, great stories. Great stories.
Yeah, that was.
I remember my first
we could sit
bullet.
here and talk forever about that.
Oh, yeah. That's why I was getting so disoriented, because it's just like I could talk forever about the past and the fun I've had metal detecting the things I've found. I mean, I found
and sitting here listening to you talk, I could learn, a bunch just listening to you talk.
And
yeah. I'm sorry, Loy, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying, that's why we've got him on, is because he's just a wealth of information.
I tell you.
He is.
Yeah, get me now before I forget it. I'm not getting any younger, Hey, speaking of forgetting things, I want to tell everybody out there, the old guys know this, the old gals, but the young guys probably don't. You find something nice and you think, wow, I'm never going to forget where that came from. And you're going to look at it 10 or 15 years down the road and go, where did that come from? Whenever you find something, be sure and label it as to where it came from. Put it either in a case with the item, or if you don't have enough cases, put it in a plastic bag with the item and with where it came from, because provenance is really important to me. I mean, without knowing where something came from, you can go to a show and buy Civil War bullets all day long for $1 a piece. But if you've got one and you know where it came from, it's a whole lot more special.
It is. And
it is.
Keep
and
all of those.
I think myself.
Go ahead.
Even as, of course, I'm only 42, and I can see, like, some of my first bullets that I found, that I look at this bullet and I'll be like, well, where was this come from? And it takes me a minute to realize where that bullet come from. And now I've got most of my different farms, they're all in different cases.
Mm-hmm.
So when, like, I'll go to this farm, I'll put that relic in the case it goes in. So that helps me a lot.
And it's important because the relics are going to outlive us. The relics will be there, I would hope, till the end of time. I'm talking about after they've been recovered. So the story that you could tell someone verbally about this was found at so-and-so's charge or so-and-so's camp, that's going with us. When we leave here, unless we've got it written down somehow, nobody's going to know. Our kids aren't even going to remember where it came from. So it's important to keep track of your finds.
And American Digger magazine is helping with that quite a bit, because people are able to tell their story. I know Barb with the lumber mill that she's working now.
Excellent
her story, it was an excellent story. She's got that recorded, and now 50, 100 years later, people will go back in the archives and they'll be able to look at that spot and they'll say, this lady found these things, and that history is preserved, and that's the important part of it. It's not about what you find; it's about the story that what you find tells.
Exactly, and think of this. This is really mind-boggling. But Barb, I know you're probably listening out there. Thanks for listening in. But that story not only outlives you, it is archived. It's actually up in the Library of Congress too, because we send issues to them too. So it's forever.
I knew I should have got her autograph whenever I was there.
You should have.
Yeah.
I knew her when.
Yeah, I knew her when. I was afraid to get close to Barb, though, because she didn't think I was coming to DIV, and we kind of kept it secret from her. And then she won that knife, and, I kind of shied away from her after she won that big knife. But, Barb's a great person. And,
she is.
Y'all are doing a yeoman's job with the magazine.
Thank you.
Being able to preserve all that. And by the way, I've got a couple of guys that me and Jeff are meeting tomorrow and Saturday that are from Missouri that got into that big silver cache. And I'm working on a story on that and going to do some we had to meet up so I could get some good photographs and everything of the way that I want to look at it. But hopefully that'll be coming up in American Digger magazine before too long.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to see that. I really am.
It's Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff was the first one on here. Yeah, he was the first one to comment. So.
Yeah, it's Jeff Ford and Wes Stringer, and they're a couple of great guys, and I'm looking forward to hunting with them tomorrow and Saturday. and looking forward to getting that story together. Hey, guys, you have a chance once again to talk to a legend, Butch Holcome with American Digger Magazine. You can tell your kids and you can tell your grandkids. I got to talk to him live.
Are you saying I'm kind of a big deal?
Well, you are. You're part of that.
Well, I'm big.
Yeah, you are to the relic hunting deal. Yeah.
You're wide pride, too.
Wide pride, baby.
Yeah. We got Barb on. What's going on, Barb?
Hey, Barb.
Well, hello, Barb.
I had to call in. I've known Butch almost 4 years. That's, like, exciting. When I met him, I had no clue who he was. They were like, oh, he's with American Digger Magazine. I'm like, yeah, whatever, okay. I hadn't been metal detecting that long. But the next time I met him, he tried to steal my detector and my shovel.
And almost got it. Well, that was when the Garrett AT Pro had first come out, and I already had one, but I wanted a backup. And Barb, you weren't using it; it was sitting against the truck there with your shovel, and I didn't see any reason if you're not going to use it. I mean, but no, I'm just so glad you didn't have the knife then.
It was actually funny because we were at Heath's property. And I just jammed, it was lunchtime, I jammed my shovel in the ground, threw my detector on it, and thank God I had my Dirt Pirate stickers on it. And Butch comes over and says, I think this is yours with my detector. And I looked at him and I said, and where's the shovel it was leaning on? He went, probably in my car, and it was almost in his car.
Actually, I think it was Jeff Lubert that returned it to you because I was just too embarrassed.
Oh.
No, he was too scared. He was too scared.
That too, yes.
No, I was glad I didn't have to drive to your place to get it, so I was very tickled. It was great.
I'd have moved.
He is a great guy. He is a great guy, though, isn't he, Barb?
Oh, no, I love Butch and Anita to death. They're great people. I'm glad I've got to metal detect with him numerous times in three different states, Alabama, Georgia, and Virginia.
Yeah.
And I greatly appreciate that he printed my article. I worked hard on it. I didn't know if it would be that welcome, but I've had a ton of response that made me feel really good about it.
Well deserved. It really was. It was a great article.
It was a good article.
And that's coming from an editor too. I mean, I've had to look at submissions from people, and you hate to tell them, it's just not good enough. But well done. You did a great article.
Yeah, she did. She absolutely did. And, Barb, getting back to that hunt where I stole when I accidentally put your detector in my car and you caught me, you made a good find at that hunt. If I remember, I was up there hunting and you came in right where I had been and dug a Silver Liberty or something? Seated quarter, yeah. Right where I had been.
It actually, I knew there was a cellar hole back there. And when it was, okay, you can go hunt, I just kind of meandered back there, and I said, I'm going as far back as I can to that last cellar hole. And when I got there, Butch, and I don't know who you were with, but Heath had cleared out this huge spot, and they were working the rim from the right to left, and I thought, well, I'll start down here and meet them. And I wasn't there maybe 3-4 minutes, and I'm like, that's silver, and yeah, it was, and I was like, holy crap, and Butch was like, do not tell me. I was like, okay, I won't tell you.
Oh, me.
That's when I knew she was a contender.
Yeah, she was. And she's redneck, too.
Oh, yeah.
She's redneck, too. Imagine that. We got 4 rednecks on the radio at one time, and everything is still going live.
She's a pirate.
Arg.
I guess that's considered as a redneck.
Well, my ex-father-in-law, bless his soul, always called me as redneck Yankee. So I've lived in the South more than I have in the North. So, it's just worn off on me.
Well, we consider you one of ours.
One of us.
Yep, one of us. South.
Do you eat grits, Barb? Barb, do you eat grits?
Yes.
Hey, look at that. Look at that.
Well, I don't see Barb being a triple extra large. I mean, as small as she is, she's not going to make it, buddy.
She will never wear the wide pride T-shirt of shame.
No, she's going to be in that group with me and Scott and Jeff. We're the smaller guys. Hey, Jesse Rogers has got a question for you, Butch. He wanted to know if you knew anyone that had ever doused for cellar holes and pits. You know what I'm talking about with the dowsing rods?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a subject. I'm going to be honest with you. I had no belief in that at all until the last few years. And I don't know how it works, but not suddenly, a friend of mine, though, who I'm not going to say his name, I'm not going to say what he does, even where he lives, he was making these incredible finds at great depths, and one of my friends took him to a site, and nothing pointed or anything, and he found a coin that they could not get a signal on, and they started digging, and there was a coin, but he was actually dowsing when he found it with a fellow with a metal detector. My friend had the metal detector. My friend became such a believer, and I got in touch with the guy after that and started talking to him. And for some people, it does work. I cannot explain how or why, but for some people, it does work. And it wouldn't work for me probably, but if you believe it works, it works. That was the way it was put to me. And,
well, me and Jeff worked with a guy that is in my county here. He's a historian, and we help him from time to time do some cemetery cleanups and renovations. Yeah. We don't metal detect in the cemeteries, but we do go and help put the fences back up and clean all the brush and everything.
Good.
But he can take dowsing rods and find graves. And he can go into a spot and you think, well, that doesn't work, but he takes red flags and he will go across and then he'll cut it 90 degrees and come the other way and put a red flag. And then you go digging around and you'll find a headstone that is buried. It was a grave. And
it is.
I don't know.
And I guess I do not. I have no idea. I guess it's just a gift. I mean, I've tried it.
Yes.
And then, of course, I mean, I've seen people do it, trying to hunt for whales and all other kind of things. And I've tried it with like trash pits and stuff. And of course, I don't have that gift. It doesn't work for me. So
I think you've got to firmly believe in it. Now I will tell you a little experiment to try that'll give you a new outlook on dowsing. Take 2 coat hangers, straighten them out, bend them at 90 degrees. To where you're basically an L shape, and put them loosely in your hands with your hands straight out in front of you and the wires just kind of dangling, and walk over something metal and watch what happens. They will cross.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, we got another.
They sure will.
We got another caller in 4990. Who we got and what's your question?
This is Chris Heimsoff.
Hey Chris.
Hey Chris.
Hey, how's it going, Chris?
Good. How you doing, Jeff? Lloyd, Butch?
Nice to hear from you.
Fine.
Hey, I got a dowsing story for you real quick.
Sure.
I used to do a lot of that whenever I removed underground storage tanks. We would use them to trace the product lines and things. But I was metal detecting a lady's farm, and she said, hey, I've got a garden plot about 150 yards out here. And she said, we used to have, 10 years ago, a electric wire running from the house out to that garden. It's been disconnected. We don't know where either end of the wire is. Can you find that with your metal detector? And I said, yeah, I'll come out and look for that. But I happened to have a couple flagging rods with me, or you just draw flags. Pulled the flags off, bent the rods over. I thought, I'm going to try to douse that line. I went out there. She said, what are you doing with those? I said, well, I'm going to try to find that line. And so I started walking, and they crossed, and I put a little flag in the ground, and I came back, and they crossed. I put a flag in the ground. She said, I don't know what you're doing, but it's not over there. It's over here on the corner of the garden. That's where it is. I said, okay, well, I'll go get my detector. Went and got it, came back, swung around the corner, nothing. She said, well, it's right here. I know it's on the corner. It's been 10 years, and the garden's grown because they plowed it with a tractor, but it's there. Well, I said, well, let me just go over here. Went to where I had doused it, and with the detector, and she said, what's that mean? And I dug the spade in the ground and popped, and doing, out that wire popped. And
wow.
Said, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, she couldn't believe it. I was super excited. Man, it traced it out just fine for me. So
there you go.
It works. I mean, if you believe it works, it works. And think about it. This is not something new. This is something that's been around since at least probably the 1600s. It's how people found water, how people found wells. And, you know, back then when you had to do everything by hand, I would think that people wouldn't want to dig random holes to find wells. And I think that they called them witchers back then, water witchers.
They did.
I think, yeah, I think those people were probably onto something because people wouldn't be paying them if they were going out and not finding water. So it's just something I can't comprehend.
And you're giving our age out again, Butch. Well, talking about the water witchers and everything.
I only did that for a few months.
Jesse Rogers says, I have a story about a local guy that did it to find Civil War pits.
It'll find those. It will find anything where the ground has been disturbed, whether it's a hole, a pit, a ditch, a grave, anything where the ground has been disturbed, it will find it. And I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to believe. I didn't believe it until Jeff and I seen it. But the guy that we work with can actually tell you the sex of the person in the grave, whether it's male or female.
That was in the comments earlier. I'm trying to find it, and of course I was going to say something, but
we took the guy.
That was amazing.
We took the guy to a graveyard that he didn't know. We made him get on the backside where he couldn't see the headstone. And we made him walk to graves and said, tell us, is this a man or a woman? And he did not miss. And I have no idea how that would work, but it does. It works for him. Now, I don't know if it would work for me.
I'll do you one better even than that. It's going to sound silly, but have you ever heard of map dowsing where people just douse a map?
No,
Yes, there are a few. It's impossible. Let's say it. It's impossible, I think. But I had a guy, I was going up to DIV, and he said, let me douse you some spots. I said, okay. So he doused me, I think 3 spots. It turned out one was off limits. The other one was a house place that out in the middle of nowhere, which was so ungodly junky, I had to move away from it. And the third, I walked to where he had the X and immediately dug a volcanic bullet, one of the best bullets I've ever dug. Did it work? I don't know, but the 2 sites I went to should have had something. One of them did. He did on a map, and there are people that say that works.
How did he do that? Did he do it with rods?
No, he used a pendulum.
A pendulum?
And a pendulum. He used a pendulum, and he had a lot of weird stuff that went with it. He said, I didn't watch him do it, but he said, I have to ask, can I douse this map? And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And he sent me back the map. I mean, I'd sent him a map of the DIV. It was when they were actually giving away the maps early. And doggone if he didn't peg a house site and a place that had some camp lead and a nice bullet in it. Now, was there any, was that luck? I don't know, but it was pretty cool regardless.
Yeah, I tell you what.
I haven't asked since then, though.
Hey, folks, y'all are now listening to the Ouija Board and Beyond on Spreaker Live.
Hey, I'm going to let you guys go, but if I...
All right, thank you. Great story.
Hey, good call there, Chris.
It was a great story. Thanks for calling in.
That would make a heck of a subject on one of our shows some night, although there are a lot of people, and... Okay, I like a lot of archaeologists, some archaeologists I don't like, but you mentioned dowsing to almost any university degreed archaeologist, and they're going to think you nuts. But you mentioned,
I've seen it on. History Channel and all that, and then of course they try to debunk it, and of course they do this and do that. And I mean, like you said, I mean, if you believe, I mean, it'll work for you. And then
it will.
I had no idea.
It's not scientific, but there's a lot of things I believe in that aren't scientific.
I think it may be.
That's right.
I think it may be scientific. We just don't know the science behind it.
That's quite possible.
That's probably the deal.
Yeah.
You know, there was a guy told me one time that I was hunting with, and my style of hunting, I was finding a lot of stuff. His style of hunting was a pendulum swing, and he wasn't finding anything. And he told me one day, he said, "You're the luckiest man I've ever seen." And I said, when you do it every day, it ceases to be luck. So if you're dowsing and you're finding things and you're finding them on a consistent basis, it's not an anomaly. There's something to it. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it, but I know there's something to it.
It just occurred to me that you can go out and spend $50,000 for a ground penetrating radar that's basically doing what a forked stick used to do.
Now, this guy doesn't use a forked stick. He uses 2 brass rods.
Wires.
Yeah, wires.
I think that's
rods.
The way it works. Yeah, I'd always heard of people using willow branches, but I've actually tried the thing with the coat hangers, and they will cross if you go over metal. I hadn't really tried them with anything else. So.
Well, my dad used to use a forked stick, you know, and he'd claim that he could find water lines and things, and you know, was, I guess, pretty consistent with it. There's a science behind it, and
there is.
Our subject tonight was going to be the evolution of metal detecting and relic hunting. We have really evolved, haven't we? Mind Lab is.
We have. We're going to forked oak limbs.
Yeah.
Y'all excuse me. I need to go put some more batteries in my willow twig.
Debbie with Mind Lab right now has her engineers working on what Jesse Rogers calls the Wonder Rod with discrimination, you know, witching with discrimination.
Debbie, I hope you hear this. I'm going to be seeing Debbie in a couple of weeks. We're actually going up to New Hampshire, and I'm going to be hunting for a week up there at colonial sites, and Debbie's going to be up there. And American Digger is actually getting an award for the 3rd year in a row for Best Treasure magazine. And Debbie, I imagine, will possibly be picking up a trophy for Mind Lab as well. So we'll see what happens on that.
Both
well congratulations, Butch.
Yep, the bone hunt.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I say, the magazine, if I wanted to do this to get rich, I should have stayed in my old profession, which was being a machinist, which really pays good money, but it's not what I wanted. I wanted to have relics and metal detecting a part of my life and to make a living off of it. And there's no other word for it, man. I've been blessed with it. I am blessed every day with this.
Well, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
You don't. And get this, guys, I get to ride off my hunting boots at tax season.
Man. Well, see, Butch, yeah. I mean, we're pretty much in the same boat. See, my company that I worked for 15 years, they shut down last year. And then I've been blessed to be able to metal detect and be out in the outdoors and stuff. So, I mean, it was kind of a blessing that they shut down. I mean, I hate that they did, but I mean, it was a blessing that, I mean, it's that they did. I mean,
I really don't think, I mean, I could be wrong, but I really don't think there's a thing as just absolute random occurrences. Things happen for a reason. And if you look deep enough, there's a blessing in everything. Just look a little beyond what's happening and you'll see it.
That's right. I mean,
make lemonade out of those lemons.
Right.
Except shotgun shells. I have not found a blessing in digging shotgun shells, except maybe knowing my batteries work.
I'll tell you what.
That's right. Well,
I keep all of mine.
I do have a buddy that collects them. Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
There you go.
I do. And I had a friend up north that had he had a website where he had more history on head stamps than anybody that I've ever seen.
Wow.
And he would, I rock tumble all of mine. I'll get, 100 or 200 of them and then go to cleaning all of them. And I'd just group them up and send pictures, and he'd say, that's a rare one there. And I'd send it to him to put in his collection, you know. So,
well,
they're not all junk.
And I said that kind of tongue in cheek. Actually, somewhere where my parents live, and I used to live out in the woods there's actually a pile of shotgun shells where I dumped them, but I didn't. I brought them back because I was thinking, one day I'm going to take these and look through them, because I actually found a couple that were dated. And those I did keep. I've still got those in my collection, but somewhere out there's probably several thousand shotgun shells.
And you guys on Relic Roundup and History Seekers and Beyond Sight and Sound, we all have people that listen to us all over the country and internationally too. We have people in other countries that listen to us. Down here in the South, we call those 12 Georgia buttons. And why do we call them that?
Yes, we do. They're because it says 12GA on them. And you know what? A lot of them are from Remington's brigade, although occasionally Winchester's Corps did have some too.
Yeah.
That's right. Jeff Ford's got a question for you, Butch. He says,
Yeah.
What's left on your bucket list?
A gold coin. I have never dug a gold coin. That's in fact there's a contest in each issue of American Digger magazine, which we're going to give away a subscription here shortly, but in each issue of American Digger magazine we hide a gold coin inside the magazine somewhere that our readers are supposed to find, because the publisher, who is me, cannot seem to find a gold coin if it was thrown at him.
And we ought to find one, because we work primarily Civil War sites, and that's where, that's your best shot. That's our best shot.
It is
a Civil War spot.
Yeah, I think that's true here in North Georgia where I hunt too, because most of the people that lived at the house sites were basically dirt farmers. They didn't have that, but the soldiers should have had them. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me one time, though, that gold is gold. And if somebody has gold, they do everything they can to hold on to it. But what really blows my mind is I found quite a few half dimes at Civil War sites. They're not that rare down here. So if they're losing half dimes, a gold coin is close to the same size. You would think it would fall out of the same pocket. But
you'd think
not
so.
for me. Yeah, not for me.
And those haven't been dug out. That's not like the plates and everything, to where
right.
Everybody dug those out.
No.
You would think that they would be in with those in those iron patches and all the slow work that we do in the digging of the iffy signals.
You would think.
Yeah, it's coming. None of the three of us have a gold coin, and I guess
it's good to It's good to know I'm in good company then. I'll tell you another relic that y'all probably have dug that I haven't dug, and this just goes to show you sometimes things skunk us. I have never dug a U.S. boss bit. Now, I have dug the bridle rosettes. I've dug several of them, one of them an artillery bridle rosette, but I have never dug the little U.S. bit bosses. Not a one. Not even a broken one.
I've got one that came from an old house site.
Most people...
That's where I found mine at.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that I just have not been able to get my coil over.
And Butch, my white whale for years and years was a half dime. I'd never found one. And a month or two ago, me and Jeff hunted with Ron and Tim of the Dig Dogs at a site that Jeff had, Civil War site, and I found my first half dime there. So,
wow.
And then a couple of weeks later, found a cap bus. So, they're there. You just have to get a coil over.
They're there, but that's what happens to people a lot of times. Is you just cannot find something for the life of you that's not that rare, really. Well, my quest for a Georgia button, I was taken into several sites by people where they dug I'm talking about Civil War era Georgia button. While I was there at one site, in fact, one guy dug one on one side of me. The other guy was about 30 feet away. He dug one. I went right in between them. I got a good signal, and I dug the only Yankee Eagle button found within a mile of there.
That's what Jeff did in the New York camp, and that's what I did.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I wanted a New York button so bad at that New York camp, and I was about 2/3 of the way back on that bluff there. And I watched about 50 of them be dug around me, and the only thing I found was an Eagle button, and that's all that Jeff found was an Eagle button. Neither one of us got a New York.
that kind of segues into something that I was going to bring up on here tonight. There's just so much to talk about. My gosh, we're in free baseball. But one of the things that I've actually argued with some of the archaeologists about, and God bless them, I know that they think they're right on everything, but honestly, they're wrong on a lot of stuff too. One of the things they're wrong about is artifacts are deteriorating into the ground every day. We used to dig New York buttons, which were 3-piece buttons, very fragile. We used to dig them that were as solid as a 2-piece button. Every one I've seen in the last 10 years with people I've been digging at, the rim is completely rotted away. Now, that's in 40 years' time. They deteriorated to that point. Stuff is not better off leaving it in the ground for the most part. It should be gotten out. It should be preserved. And something that's going on now in a lot of the archaeology digs and at Mount Peliar, which those guys are doing good work with Mine Lab, but they have decided now that the best thing to do is they use a metal detectorist. He locates the target. They dig it up. They take pictures of it. They take it out of the ground, remove it from where it's been for centuries, and then they put it back in the ground and cover it back up and mark the location because they don't have enough. They don't have enough funding to preserve the artifact. And my argument has been, let us preserve the stuff. There's a lot of guys in our community that know electrolysis. We know how to wax or coat the items. We're good at preserving things. Don't put it back in the ground because it will deteriorate. But their theory is, well, one has told me, then how can you explain the stuff in Egypt that have been in the pyramids for thousands of years? Those don't deteriorate. Metal doesn't. It's like it's a different environment.
It is. It's a dry environment, totally, and it's a dry sand, and you don't have all that working against it. There was a young man at the DIV 40 where we were all at, and he came and showed me something. His name was Austin Cooper, and his dad, Troy. But he dug several of the New York buttons, and he dug one, and it came apart from the back as he dug it. It was still in good shape, but it came apart. He brought it over there and showed me. And do you know that in the dome of that button there is paper in that, and that's what keeps the dome of that, and that's why that paper gets wet. That's why those buttons are deteriorating.
And they do, and it's always the rim. The rim is the thinnest part. But back in the 70s, I remember the first time I ever dug New York buttons. I got 3 or 4 of them off the same coat, and they almost look non-dug. I mean, they don't look non-dug, but they're solid as they can be. And not now though.
Hey Jeff, my chat is locked up. You probably need to go.
Okay, well, Gary Hickman, he's got a question for Butch. He says, "What machine do you use?"
Oh, well, I use Gary Fisher, Deus, Mine Lab. I am loyal to our advertisers, though. I'm not saying other people don't have good machines, but Mine Lab, Garrett, Fisher, and Deus, XP Deus, have been longtime advertisers with us, and I use all of their products. I don't use other people's products because I figure if they're loyal to us, we'll be loyal to them. And in my experience, I've frankly found those to be the best brands. So
good answer.
I stand behind them. Yeah.
What I was going to say, Jeff, you probably ought to start looking through the chat and the guesses on our birth date.
Yes.
Mine is 1950 was when I was born. December of 1950, but 1950 is all you had to have. What about you, Butch?
My gosh, you're old. Oh, I'm sorry. Was my mic on?
What is yours, 47?
Oh, keep me while I'm down. Mine is 1955.
I told you I was older than he was.
Man, I tell you, he's in better shape, too. I don't understand that.
He is in pretty good shape for an older guy.
Good shape. I mean, well, he's just, but he'll never be wide pride. That's all I know. You know, some of us got to take one for the team.
Heath Jones, get on here and corral this guy here. We can't do anything with him tonight.
Let's see.
I'm gonna have.
I noticed that there was a couple of people that had my birth year picked exactly right, 1950. But who got 1950 and then the closest on 1955?
We got Matt Purdue. He had your birthday in 1950, but he had Butch's at 51. Wow, there's a bunch of them on here.
Well, the onus is on you. You're going to have to pick one. Just pick the closest one.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, can you take it just 1 second? I got a fire to put out here, and I'll be back in just a moment. You guys take the mic.
Yeah. We're good at that.
Yeah.
We'll keep it going.
I wanted to, while we were on here, I wanted to let everybody know Tim Henderson at Murray's Outdoor. He has got his Mind Lab dealership license now. So,
and we've got an announcement that's going to be coming up relatively soon on that. We're going to change his ad and include that, but we're also going to have Mind Lab is going to do some stuff with us. I can't give anything out on that, but it's going to be a giveaway, and it's going to be a massive giveaway. I mean, it's something.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Yeah,
that you're going to have to watch, and Jeff and I will probably do a YouTube on that, and also Dig Dogs will probably do a duplicate on that as well. But it'll be worth watching for. It's been a while since Jeff and I did a giveaway, and I'm looking forward to. And this is going to be with young people, and so that's my passion, is metal detecting and getting young people into it and helping them all that we can, and everything. So it's going to be good. What'd you come up with on the dates? Did you notice how quiet everything got whenever Butch left?
Man, it did get quiet, didn't it? Let's see. It's gonna Barb. She put 1949 Butch. There's so many of them. 51 Butch. Everybody's thinking Butch is older than he really is. Oh, here we. Let's see. Ohio Rabbit Hunter.
He's back. Quit talking.
Hello, Butch.
Hey, guys. Memo to self: never drink coffee before show. Okay, let's move along.
You got to know how. You got to figure out how to handle that, Butch, and stay on the air. That's hilarious.
This out. This was a bonus for live listeners.
It was. You heard it first right here on Relics Radio. I tell you. We're
better you than me.
Yeah, we're
See,
still.
how are we going to do it? Okay, there was a couple of them that had Loy's birthday, but they didn't. They were far off from Butch's. Okay, now Nick, he had 1951 7 and 1953 Butch. That's the closest one to Butch that I've seen.
Okay, that's the closest one to both of them.
Will be our winner then, I imagine.
Is that Nick Haas?
Yeah.
Okay, Nick Haas.
Yep.
Send me your information to. Just email me if you want to. diggingwith7. That's all one word @gmail. In fact, I'll just go ahead and put that in here in the comments. diggingwith7 @gmail.com. Send us your address and everything, and I'll pass that on over to Butch. And you're going to get a year's subscription of American Digger magazine. Congratulations!
Absolutely.
What about that, man? Thank you very much, Butch. That's awesome.
Well, I tell you what, we try to spread the good news with everybody about relic hunting through the magazine, and that gets us out there more. And I will make my offer one more time too. If you've never read American Digger magazine, contact us 770-362-8671. Email Anita at American Digger Magazine, or go to our website, americandigger.com, or our Facebook site. We're all over the place. And what we will do is send you free of charge the latest issue of American Digger Magazine so you can see what you've been missing. and I really believe you're going to like it. And, if you don't like it, here's our policy. Return the unread portion, and we will return the unspent portion of your money. How about that? Nobody else will make a deal like that because nobody else.
No, sure won't. That's a good return policy right there.
Man.
I told y'all was fixing to get a big dose of redneck here tonight.
What you talking about, Willis?
South going to rise again. It started right here tonight. But you have been a marvelous, marvelous guest.
Well, I appreciate that. You guys are too kind, and honest to goodness, I do it for the hobby. I love this hobby. I love most of the people in it, and I think that we're preserving something for future generations by doing what we do. I think it's a very noble thing. Just always get permission, always cover your holes, and be kind to your hunting partner and your neighbor and to everybody you meet.
All good words.
Amen.
Yeah, man.
What you got to say, Jeff, in closing here tonight?
I've seen Nick. I won Garrett's by digging a special token this year. But anyway, I appreciate all of the listeners and all the comments and stuff, and I really appreciate our guest, Butch. And we couldn't do it without you guys.
Hey, guys, I just realized something, too. Nick, if you're a subscriber already, we'll renew you for a year. So maybe that's what he was talking about with the token. So the rich get richer.
Okay.
Sorry.
And the poor get poor.
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, I'll take it.
Yeah. I enjoy the magazine, and I highly recommend the magazine. I highly recommend that you go to American Digger Relic Roundup on Spreaker every Monday night. It's just this kind of show every night. I mean, they're top-notch guys, and got a good host and good co-host on that. Just a good show. You won't be disappointed.
Thank you. And before we close out, also, I forgot all about it because this is close enough, especially for you to come, Jeff, and maybe you too, Lloyd. But American Digger now does relic shows and artifact shows. We do one in Charleston each year in January, but this year we're adding one in July. It's July the 28th and 29th. It's going to be at Camp Jordan Arena, Camp Jordan Parkway. 2 days, going to be a lot of artifacts there, a lot of metal detecting equipment, and a really good time, good family atmosphere.
Now, where's that located at?
That's actually just down, I believe, one exit from the Chattanooga exit.
Okay.
It's and we're calling it the Chattanooga
that's close
show,
enough,
but it's East Ridge, Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah, we're game for that. We may come out there and do a live show or something other.
I was fixing to say, I think that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, well, that worked out good for us in Virginia and give us some exposure, and we get to meet some more people and everything. And all the time that
we can walk that far, Seven.
Almost.
Yeah, you can. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That's the way me and Loy used to have to get around before the wheel,
Yeah.
Yeah, uphill both ways in the snow.
That's right.
That's the way we went to school. That's why.
He's told you that story, hasn't he?
No, my grandmother did.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Butch,
had a great time, guys.
So glad to have you on. So glad to know you and be able to call you our friend. And we were truly blessed to have you on our show tonight. And you're welcome back anytime. And
I appreciate that.
If you go to start one of your shows, whether you're on Relic Roundup or you're with History Seekers or something, make sure that my number's not on there, because if you call me again, you're on the show again.
I know. And you know what? I did that on purpose, actually, because I really wanted to be on Relics Radio, but I was embarrassed to ask you, so that worked out real good.
And you've never been embarrassed. And you know, brother, that you're welcome anytime. And tell Anita that she's in our prayers, having to put up with you.
Yeah, thank you. Anita needs lots of prayers because, I am who I am.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. It's been a great pleasure, and God bless you, and keep up the good fight for metal detecting. That's about all I can say.
It was our honor, Butch.
It was, and thanks for our callers, Woody Jones and Barb and Chris Heimsoff. Appreciate all of that and the great giveaway and everything. We're going to cut on out here. If you guys will hold on, I'll catch you on the other side. But we'll see you guys next Thursday night on Relics Radio. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live each Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker. Or you can catch the archive show at Relics Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. Please take a minute and hit the like button and be sure and follow us so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Digging with Seven or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our Relics Radio Facebook page. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to diggingwith7@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.